Well, welcome to our webinar. It is July of 2021, and this webinar's topic is fixing common vocal problems, specifically for voice teachers, and many singers do become voice teachers at one time or another. There are certain problems which occur over and over again, and they're not that difficult to fix if you can identify the problem and you have some things that you can experiment with. The goal of voice is to sing and to get to songs and to perform and to record. But one's confidence can be greatly impaired if they either feel they have a vocal problem or a teacher says they have a vocal problem. And I've been doing this for many decades and always wanted to fix my vocal problems and not just have to guess at how to become a better singer. So I've put a lot of the most common vocal problems on one sheet, and you can always email me at lisa@popeil.com if you'd like to receive that sheet. It's a handout. It has the problems and it has the fixes that I use. The fixes that I'm going to talk about are all road tested. If they're iffy or they don't work that well, they're not on the list. Only the things that work again and again and can be a revelation for singing students, where they'll just say, I had no idea, or that's a completely different sound, or I've had this problem for so many years and I can't believe it. It's not a problem if they, of course, practice it on a regular basis and it becomes their new normal, their new second nature. We're going to start with breath support. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because if you're a fan of my work, if you know my work, you know how important I think it is that breath support be precise, concise, and specific, and the way I do it seems to work for everybody in all styles. Many vocal problems can be fixed not directly, let's say tongue tension. Instead of doing months of tongue stretches, just fix posture and support. If there's jaw tension, if there's neck pulling, neck twisting, reaching for high notes, overlifting the voice box for high notes, all of these can be fixed and or at least should start, not directly, not with the apparent problem by doing relaxation exercises, but instead trying this support method, which is when you sing, keep your chest up, don't let it drop. When you sing, widen your side and back ribs slightly before you sing and keep them out. Don't let them collapse even when you're out of air. Put 3 fingers on your upper belly. Most people's magic spot is right here. Mine is here. Most people's is a little higher. Its job in singing, for all singing, is to gently firm out and stay out like a spongy wall for the entire phrase, and then it's going to relax in for breathing, like this. Shh. The lower belly has its own job. It's not just one belly. The abdomen should be divided into 2 sections. The lower belly is the thumb on the belly button and the fingers below, not splayed out. Start with a soft belly. Its job in singing is to gradually go straight in for singing, not in and down, not in and up, but definitely in, and often more in than you think you need, and then relax it for breathing. And I do recommend for yourself and to tell your students that you want to support every note you sing. High notes, low notes, loud notes, soft notes, straight tone, vibrato, breathy, closure, clean closure. Doesn't matter what the style is. If you have any issues with your voice, try this support before you try anything else. Let's go on to singing high notes in chest voice. This is one of the hot topics, in my view. Singing high notes in chest voice, we can call it belting. Not everyone agrees with that, but I believe that belting is at the base of it, the ability to take chest voice up higher. For women, let's say above the G4, the G above middle C, definitely above C, C5, the C above middle C. For women, that's when it can become very challenging to not just flip into head voice. Chest voice requires more support than head voice does. Chest voice shows a thicker chord and it makes them clap. And they stay together longer. Each time they open and close, they stay together longer, closed than open. And that all of that requires more pressure from underneath, more what's called subglottal pressure, this area being the glottis. So in order to do that, you have to support more than if you were in head voice. In men's voices, the desire to go into head voice or falsetto, to me they're the same thing, starts typically around an F4, the F above middle C, or an F sharp, a half step above that, a semitone above. And one of the reasons we equate head voice with high notes is that it's just easier because the vocal fold is, the edge is thinner and it has an undulating pattern to it and it's open more than half the time, and all of that requires less pressure. So it's just easier to go into head voice. And there's times when you want to do that. But the money notes in commercial singing, pop, jazz, rock, R&B, musical theater belting, is a form of chest voice. It doesn't have to be loud, though it often is. To me, chest voice is the talking sound. It's based on the sound you're hearing right now. This is a type of chest voice. And as you take it up higher, although it's more challenging to do it without hurting yourself and to do it where it's controlled and sounds good, it is doable, and there are a few tricks that you can try. One is Belter's bite. First, you take your head and you tilt it up slightly, like this. Then you imagine biting on your fingers, or you can actually bite on your fingers. Put them between your molars and feel that chewing muscle engage, and the chin should be slightly forward. Make sure that the tongue is relaxed in the mouth and that the jaw, lower jaw, is still flexible. Yeah. Make sure that's flexible, but it's engaged. The jaw is firm but flexible. And this Belter's bite will really help you take chest voice up higher more easily, especially for women who are trained to always go into head voice on higher notes. This slightly lifted position can be a good crutch. It's not necessary, but it's a good crutch, and everybody does it. Upper belly magic spots should be firmed out more firmly, again, because we need more pressure in the airstream to make the chords stay tall, thick, and clappy. Now, the lower belly has a special little function. I call it the lower belly boost. So as you're going higher, let's say you're singing, you're going ba, 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 and then you're skipping to a higher note, ba, just go ahead and pull that lower belly in suddenly a little more. Not all the way in. You want to leave a little leeway because you never know what's coming up sometimes. So the lower belly is coming in for the phrase ba, 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 ba. So the lower belly is the high note helper. It's going in for high notes makes high notes easy, whether you're in chest or head voice. But it's a definitely great trick to know for taking chest voice up higher without neck grabbing. If, as a teacher, you hear someone starting to feel choky, strangly, or grabby in their neck for a high note, or their voice box comes up, da, ba, 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 try the lower belly boost and see if that helps. The chin push down, I've had great results with this. I've only started doing this the last 5 years or so. What you do is you take 2 fingers and you put them under your chin. Feel free to try this at home. You've got your Belter's bite on. You're sitting tall, standing tall, and just go, yeah, 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 yeah. Gently push against your fingers. Yeah, 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 yeah. Make sure the jaw doesn't, I just saw my jaw move sideways. That we don't want. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Straight up and down. Not clenched. Very important. And this action with the fingers there as you go higher. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, hey, hey. Will help keep the larynx low. Will help keep the ribs wide, the chest up. It just creates a stabilization in the neck that allows you to take chest voice up high without having to be really loud. It creates a bracing effect, which also makes you feel not afraid, because we have a natural fear of heights. So we don't want to go, oh, I'm afraid of high notes because I always break. The chin push down is an active way to feel low, because it's very typical in voice training to say just think low, and that does help. Or pull your voice box down for high notes. Okay, that can help, But sometimes thinking about something and doing something, the doing's better. It's an actual action you can do. And a lot of this is based on observation of great singers. It's not just made up, it's actually based on analysis of what great singers are doing, what they do, and then noticing. So, great singers, and when I say great singers, I mean great technical singers who've got consistency, long term singing ability, ease, variety. Look, you'll see that they do the chin push down even if they don't realize they're doing it. Number 5, hold back on your breath. This is not the same as holding your breath. You can't sing and hold your breath, but that's why I want to use the terms or share the term with you, holding back on your breath, because it's more accurate. And the sippy breath is a way to get people to feel what that feels like. So take the tiniest breath you can through your lips like this. Creates that little snapping sound at the lips. Now I'm going to do one that is not the sippy breath. It's a mistake some people make. That's something else. We just want the smallest one possible. And then when they're holding their breath, after doing the sippy breath, I'll say that's what belting feels like. Especially, again, if they've had classical training. In classical singing, the higher we go, the more we need to blow. But in belting, or taking chest voice up high, you want to feel like you're holding back on your breath. And for some people who have too much air in their sound when they're belting, when they're starting out learning to belt, you'll hear noise in the vocal cords that sounds like an unstable breath noise sound. They need to hold their breath harder. When people are starting to learn to belt, the noises is a sign that the cords aren't happy. I know this is completely unscientific, but by doing a sippy breath before the phrase they're working on, like by the way, since you're muted, you're free to try this at home because we won't hear you. So you try the sippy breath, and then you go on the notes that are giving you trouble, and then you could do or that are scary to you, and then you can try the sippy breath and do the phrase that you're working on. And you'll, before long, like maybe in 2 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, you won't have to do the sippy breath. Your body will remember how to set up the vocal cords, get ready. You're thinking, I'm going to do this phrase now in chest voice, and the vocal cords will set themselves up ready to go in that mechanism 1 vocal fold vibrational pattern. Look into the distance. Where the eyes go, the voice goes. And I found it really useful when belting to look far away. Don't look at something close to you. Don't look down. Look far away. Think backwards, not up. And there's really 2 reasons to think backwards for easy belting. One is because thinking backwards helps to thin the cord. That's one of the reasons. There's actually, I just thought of another reason. People tend to think they have to yell or push and have too much support, and that's not good for belting. But anyway, thinking backwards helps to thin the vocal cord, which is what you want, without going into head voice. So you're staying in M1, mode 1, mechanism 1, but you're still thinning the cord so you can take it to the top of your vocal range or near the top of your vocal range. Everyone's a little different, but for the girls I work with, the women I work with, they're able to take this M1 sound, as I can, to the very highest note of their range, which is incredibly exciting to do, and it doesn't hurt. Another reason to think backwards, not up, is that we don't want the voice box to overlift. It helps to stabilize the larynx so it doesn't strain, it doesn't reach without trying to actively pull the voice box down. Thumb pointing back. This is a gesture that you've probably seen me do. Let's see if I have a little one I can put in the chat box just as a reminder. Oh, and I also have the magic spot, so let me put that in the chat box. I put my little drawing guy in the chat box. There he is. And now the chin push down. Oop. Belter's bite. I see that I don't have I did not include the thumb one. Okay, those are 3 for you. Hopefully you can see those in the chat box. But basically you try this. Take your thumb and put it not on your neck, but next to your neck around the vocal fold line. And then as you sing higher with your belter's bite and your upper belly firming out, you think backwards, hey, 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 hey. Now that's not very loud, but it's not head voice. It still is a type of chest voice, and it feels completely comfortable. So I would say this one, the thumb point back or push back, is the most powerful thing I've discovered in the last 10 years. I've worked with it with people all around the world and at schools and colleges, and they just can't believe I can't believe too how well it works to have them take their chest voice up higher than they thought they ever could. And then they can always make it louder by thinking louder, but without neck grabbing, strangling, choking, or having too thick a cord. Because if you have too thick a vocal cord as you take chest voice up higher, you'll be flat, or you'll have a break, and you'll break into some really weak, unusable head voice. So constantly thinning while the cord is still quite thick, this contrast, this antagonism, it seems to be what makes this exciting sound that everybody wants to do and hear possible without hurting your vocal cords at all. Do we have any questions about what I've talked about so far? If not, I'll go on to just general improvement of sound. I'm going to be working with a number of people soon who are beginners. They've never sung, they think they can't sing, and they say, I have a terrible voice, but everybody does sing. We all come with that as part of the package. And so I was thinking recently, what could I do that would be really fun, not intimidating, not too technical, to make them experience what it's like to have a nice singing sound. What I'm going to talk about with them is you raise your cheeks, because a lot of them will have a hangy face, and that does not seem to help vocal sound. So you raise your cheeks. You're going to drop the jaw more, whether it's a 2-finger mouth or a 3-finger mouth. So they realize that when you're singing, you have to open your mouth more. I mean, there are styles where you don't. You just clench your teeth and go for it. But I want them to experience what we would call an open sound, a warm sound, a sound I know they like when they hear other people sing. And it's easy for them to get that sound. But they have to. I'm going to tell them, there are a few things you need to do that may seem a little odd. But just do them and you'll immediately be a better singer. Because they all sing in tune. They just don't have a good sound. So they're going to raise their cheeks, they're going to move their jaw separately, they're going to raise the soft palate, and I'm going to have them feel where that is. So you take a finger, you wipe it on your clothes, get the gook off, and then you stick it in your mouth, and we'll take a little mouth tour. So you start with behind the front teeth, that's your teeth, and then right behind that is the ridge, and that's part of the hard palate, the ridge. And now go back just a little bit further, and that's the roof of the mouth. And the high part is often surprisingly a little ahead of where you think it would be. You would think that the highest part would be in the middle of it, but in fact, in mine at least, it's in many people I look at with a flashlight, because that's what I like to do. Amazing what you can see if you look inside people's mouths with the right flashlight, is that the highest part of the hard palate can often be in front of the middle of the hard palate. And then let's go to the top of the roof of the mouth, and then go left and right, and that's all hard palate. And then we go back further until it gets soft, and that's what I call the gaggy part. And that, I tell them, we're going to lift slightly. I don't need to talk to them about nasality. I don't need to get into that unless I'm working with them privately. So now that they know where their soft palate is for sure, then I tell them we're going to lift it slightly by feeling very slightly yawny. So let's try that. Very slightly yawny, feeling the lift in the back of the mouth. And now we're going to put all that together so far. So we've got the cheeks up, the jaw's going to flap, and I feel the soft palate. Try that. And that feels weird to them. I mean, that's just like not normal. And now we're going to add two more things. We're going to blow hot steam onto the hand. You put the palm about 1 inch in front of your mouth, and you're going to just sing or make sound, yeah, 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 and feel hot steam. A lot of people who don't sound good don't actually have enough air coming through their vocal cords, and so they get yeah, yeah, yeah. They get fry, yeah, this sounds tight, yeah, yeah. So I know when I hear what they like, I always make a mental note of it, and they typically like what I call a blowy sound, not a breathy sound, but a blowy sound. And just to elicit more air coming through, I have them do the blowing of the hot steam. Now, some of them may also need to widen the throat. So I might show them you touch here on your upper throat. Try that, everybody. Quite a bit up and forward, closer to the chin than you might think. And then you go neutral, constricted, which they usually are, neutral, wide. Wide, I'm a wide-mouthed frog. So then I just might add that to it if I feel that they're constricting there. And if you're aware of my thoughts, my system on nasality, when this area constricts, it can make you sound nasal. It's not real nasality, but it has that buzzy sound that can be heard as nasality, and people don't like that in their sound. So by widening the throat right there, you can sound better. So now we've got the package. We've got the cheeks up. We've got the jaws dropping. We have raising the soft palate just a little bit. We might even count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so they can feel what it's like to make sound. Let's count to 20, everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And of course, they've got their chest high. I've shown the upper belly magic spot. Typically for a complete beginner, I'm only going to do chest up, upper belly magic spot out. They don't need to know about the stuff that makes, that you need if you're, really singing a challenging material or high notes. I just want them to get to experience their sound as being pleasant, and so that they're not embarrassed by it. And then in this workshop that's coming up, I'll do some Beatles songs and some happy 60s songs, but they're going to do it with this setup, this new, more open setup. Because I want to say that yawning has been used for centuries, the feeling of yawning. This is slightly different. Number one, it's not as big, and two, it's precise. So we're just going to just do a little of this, and then we're going to do a little of that. And so they know exactly what's doing what. So I'm hoping this goes really well, because I might continue doing that, because my interest is, as you may know, is that I want to help anyone who wants to sing be a better singer, not just professionals or people who are already really good, but anybody, because it comes with the hardware. It comes with your body, and so many people are really traumatized about singing. Like, oh, no, I can't sing. No, I hate my voice, and I don't want people to feel that. I want them to have at least a usable singing voice, so they're not embarrassed by it. Having a step-by-step can really change somebody's life. All right, next topic, creating vocal power without vocal fold pressing. So having vocal power is very important. I often try to get people to control their voices, but not being loud. Because some people think, oh, well, if I'm not loud, then I can't belt at all. And I want to show them that by these mechanisms I'm sharing with you, that you can belt, or it doesn't have to be loud, that loudness is a choice. It should be a choice based on the style you're singing, or a part of the song is loud, but not the whole song. Or you're in a situation where it needs to be loud, and how do you do that and not hurt your vocal cords? Because again, the vocal cords are the only thing that you can hurt. So we have to find ways to be loud, or at least sound loud, without creating swelling in the vocal folds. And one topic I do a lot, it's very non-scientific, is the idea of having a facey sound versus a throaty sound. So first, here's a throaty sound. I'm being loud because I am talking through my throat. So that, and I demonstrate, and I have my little hands here as though like little mouths. And this is the sound of talking through. Try that. That's the throaty sound. I'm being throaty. And it's not attractive. I get them to you can put your hands around your face like this, like a little frame. And then simply by putting your hands in this position, often can have the result. They'll be facey. And just imagining that the sound is coming out of their face. And we start by talking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hello. How are you? And then we might take the hands away. This is a way for them to raise their pitch in speech, which is what they should often be doing if they tend to talk like that, which is monotone, unattractive. There's nothing good about this. And simply by putting the hands can sometimes make the pitch go up. But I tell them, I'll just be direct. I say, okay, let's raise the pitch. And you'll notice that the sound comes directly out of your face. So when you want to be loud, make sure you're imagining shooting the sound through your face, not your throat. Very important when being loud to keep the chest high. And when I mean high, I don't mean overlifted, because I do want the back to always be expanded too. For power, you want the shoulder blades to be quite spread, maybe even spread as much as possible. And you want that rib cage to be more expanded, 80, 90, 100% expanded, and you hold it out there. For normal, not loud singing, you can have I like the ribs expanded, but not maximum. But if you're going to be loud, whether you're doing opera or whether you're in a musical and that's what the musical director likes, really push the ribs out hard. And that will help. We all know that if you use resonance to sound louder, you can appear louder without being really loud in the vocal cords. So you could be even medium in the vocal cords, but be perceived as loud by amplifying specifically your ring, which is this, and your nasality. When you put both of them together, you'll get this combination. You'll get a sound where the chords are in medium mode or medium loud mode, and the resonance is selling the sound and being perceived as really loud. Specific resonances you're looking for are ring and nasality. There are some people out there, not many, but there are a few in the vocal science world that feel that nasality weakens your sound. But I don't find that. I find that it enhances the sound. Like if I do that right now and I'm being really nasal, it just sounded twice as loud. So I'm not sure why they're saying that nasality weakens the sound, because to me, I use it all the time, stylistically and to just, get my sound across. So I'm not just saying any kind of resonance, specifically ring, which is the piercing metallic sound that cuts through an orchestra if you're an opera singer, but all pop singers should know how to use it. Using ick face, remember, and pointy for more ring. This narrows and it changes the shape of your throat without having to know about it. You just imagine that you are, something stinky. That'll give you ick face, and think pointy, and that will give you more ring. And for nasality, just think buzzy, a low buzzy sound where you can feel your sinuses vibrate inside. Now, I'm being very, very nasal. Try to, when you're working on real nasality, like I just did, make sure you're not squeezing here, because if you constrict there, that is called pseudonasality. It's not real. So keep that neutral, keep that loose, and maybe a little wide, and then you can play with nasality in your nose. When you do it by itself, it sounds really odd and not nice, but you hear it all the time in singing, and it doesn't sound like that. It just sounds, it sounds confident. Sounds good. Okay, upper belly magic spot. There's a plural here. No, there's only one. Some people actually have two. I have seen some people where their magic spot was really like two little dots. Here's the center. It's called the linea alba, between the rectus abdominis muscle. I know, aren't you impressed already? Anyway, but that's rare. Usually it's a spot or even a region that's pushing out. That's how you know that's your magic spot. I want you to try this with your hands. Just do put your hands up like this. This is your vocal. These are your vocal folds in M1 in chest voice, and this is soft singing, and this is medium singing, and this is loud singing. So I think it's really useful as singers to realize that you can do soft, medium, and loud in the vocal folds separate from resonance. They don't have to be linked. So for instance, if I want to be loud but not really try to amplify my resonance, it would sound like this. Hey, 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 hey. It's more muted sounding in the resonance, but I'm just getting my vocal folds by adding pressure in the airstream to clap wider. So it's really that width of the movement of the vocal folds that is the main determinant of volume. And then I already mentioned that if you are practicing loud, and all professional singers do need to practice being loud, but I like to train at medium and then increase volume from there, whether it's real volume or resonant perceived volume. But training at medium is good. And then I like to think of loud as a variation and soft as a variation. And good singers should be able to move easily between these, at least these three ideas. I know volumes or amplitudes are on a continuum, but as a singer, I think in terms of medium, loud, and soft for training purposes. Let's move on to smoothing vocal registers. This is not a problem for a lot of people. They can easily move from chest voice to head voice back and forth with no thought at all. But for some people, it really stops them from doing more with their voice. I believe that you are in one or the other, that you're always in one or the other, whether you know it or not. And that this idea of mix is, it means too many different things to too many different people, and that I don't believe in a third register that's a combination of the two. And the last one, number 7, I'll actually show you a trick that really works, that helps people know, that'll help you know which one you're in. Because sometimes when you're singing, you may not be sure. You'll think you're in a mix when you're actually in a type of chest voice or a type of head voice. But this is a simple trick that you'll know for sure. Oh yeah, I am in one or the other. But this is just my opinion, but it's based again on over 60 years of trying to figure out what a vocal register is and how can I control it? How can I not be confused by what they are, and how to be a good singer. All right, so first thing I like to do is to make sure people know what chest voice feels like. The chest voice doesn't have to be low, it doesn't have to be loud, it doesn't have to be heavy, and your chest doesn't have to vibrate. So a lot of people think this is chest voice and everything else is chest mix. But to me, it's all the same basic mechanism in the vocal folds. It's the clapping, slightly thicker closure. So we first start by saying, I'm talking, I'm still talking. So it's all that's all the same register in my world. And then we can say, now let's just repeat after me, hello. And they'll say, hello. And I'll say, well, that's your head voice. And it's the hooty sound, or it's the one we use when we giggle. Oh, try that one. Ooh. So giggling is head voice. And then I'll say that you can do chest voice on any note of your range, whether it's true or not, depends, but I like to say that just to go, whoa. And then I'll say, you can do head voice on any note of your range. Whoa. So the reason their chest voice was called chest voice was because it was always used on low notes. And low notes makes your chest vibrate. Not the register, but the low notes. Let's try this. Put your hand on your upper chest and take head voice low. And see if you don't feel your chest vibrate. So again, where you feel vibration is based on pitch and more complex, in a more complex thing, which may be too much for some people, but the vocal fold thinning. So if you're on a note and you thin your vocal fold, you will start to feel more vibration higher. And when you thicken the vocal fold, whether you're in M1 or M2, if you thicken the vocal fold, then you'll feel vibration lower. So vibration, where you feel vibration, is primarily if it's a high note or a low note, and secondarily and more complexly, is that a word? It should be. With more complexity, it's also related to vocal fold thinning or thickening. Now, I am planning, little time for a plug, I am planning, if anyone wants to join me, for a workshop, a webinar, Zoominar, very beginning of September, on mastering vocal registers. And in that one, we're going to get in deep with material that I don't think anyone in the world is doing. And it's just based, again, on me trying to figure out how to do registers in a way that makes sense, that helps me do anything I want with my voice. So if you're interested, let me know. Email me at lisa@popeil.com, and I will send you the information as we get closer on that one. All right, so also smoothing vocal registers is to feel front muscle and back muscle. And this is just my term for sensations of muscular activity in your vocal cords, regardless of register. So we're going to start, though, with just, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but that's going to be in the beginning of September. We're really going to get into it so you can just feel everything that you never knew you could feel. And so front muscle is just the feeling of the muscle in the vocal fold, called the vocalis muscle, that it's going to bunch up. Hey, hey, hey. Try that, just on a comfortable low chest voice note. Hey, hey, hey. And just see if you can feel little fists thicken. And that's the front muscle feeling. And then back muscle, the pure back muscle feeling, is you take your hands like this. This is your voice box. And these are little cartilages in the back of your voice box. And on a high note, very softly go in head voice, the tiniest note you can make. You may have to take it higher to really feel that the little thumbs are touching. And that's the opposite extreme. That's the feeling of there's muscular activity happening in the back of the voice box. And that tells you that the cord is thin. So thicker cord, you'll feel more in the front. Thinner cord, you more feel in the back. And I have exercises, which I'll share with you in September, on, well, there's actually one right here, but that can help a person say, I feel it. And then they can add more or less. Very important if they have register break problems, transition problems between chest on low notes and head on high notes. So here's the basic exercises at a medium volume with good support, chest high, ribs wide, 3 fingers on the upper belly magic spot. You pick a note. I'm just going to pick this note. E, the E vowel's best, trust me. E, E. At medium volume, with good support, that means chest up, ribs out, upper belly magic spot out, a straight tone hand right there. E, pick an easy note, that's middle C. E, on the vowel E, that's the best vowel for this exercise. And then you're going to do, maybe I should pick a lower note for E. Yeah, I'll pick a lower note. For the note, pick a G. For girls, round, so it's really easy to do. E, so you feel more in the front on the low note and more in the back on the high note. It's a vague feeling, but it is a definite feeling. E. So every note you go higher, you're thinning the cord. Every note you come lower, you're thickening the cord. And that feeling shift makes everything sound even. So by making these changes, you're actually creating an even sound. Then when you go to a higher note, I'm going to go to head voice, like ah. And what most people would do, they do chest, 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 head, chest, 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 and that's fine. But what they'll do is they'll be too heavy on the third note. They go ah, and then it'll break to a light head voice, ah. So that we can call it the transition note. You have to thin it. You have to get ready for head voice. So basically what you're doing is you're thinning the last chest voice note by thinking more backwards, and softer will help too. And then you're on the head voice note, you're going to thicken it. So you're going to thicken the head voice note. So you're making these two sounds more the same. So the chest voice note is softer and thinner, the transition note, and then the next note, the head voice note, will be thicker and louder. And that is what gets rid of the break without thinking you're mixing the two. So instead of, actually when I do it wrong, it lasts for a while. So we'll see if I can go from one to the other, because sometimes the shift, once it's there, it takes me a few times to get rid of it. So I'm going to do it wrong first. And I'll try to do it the right way now. So that's the chest voice, but it's light, it's soft, and it's thinner. Now when I go to the head voice, I'm going to make it louder and thicker. And that's how you practice it. You practice the transition notes and rebalance them so they're more similar. And you can also do it on humming. There's many ways to smooth vocal registers, and we'll get into that in the September webinar. I just don't like to go quickly. When I'm working on registers, I want every note to be precise blend of front muscle, back muscle, or ratio of front muscle, back muscle feeling. And that way people don't feel like they're just throwing a pizza at the wall and seeing if it's right. You know, it's like, I don't want it to be accidental. I want them to be in the driver's seat with each note, particularly the transition notes that they're having problems with. As I mentioned, we're going up in chest voice typically before we go into head voice. I mean, this is still very natural, very typical. And as we're getting softer, what happens with support? What do people do naturally when they get softer? They reduce support. But the magic formula is not intuitive, and here it is. You have to increase your support as you thin the cord. Does not compute even, but if you add upper belly support and you make it firm out on the transition note while you're thinking thinner or backwards, it is going to help the breaking, help to smooth vocal registers. That's the magic formula. More support, and lower belly too. You want the lower belly in because it is a high note helper. So I don't want to forget the lower belly. It plays an important role. So increase upper belly support, but sing more softly as the pitch rises. And in general, that makes singing better, but it's odd. You can do fast hums. The problem with hums is that you often don't know which register you're in, and I think it's better to be more precise with it. But sometimes I'll just do fast hums around the break note and just see if we can accidentally iron it out. Vibrating woos are this. Woo. Start in chest, go to head, but think horizontal. Woo. That's a great exercise, the vibrating woo. See if you can get your lips to vibrate. Woo. By the way, that's a great warm-up, and it takes no time at all. It's a lot easier than the lip trills. Lip trills and tongue trills have many things they can provide us as singers and students of voice, but just to warm up, you start in chest, go to head, keeping it really smooth. Great warm up for the vocal folds without tiring them out. Okay, now here's what I want to share with you. This is exciting for me. I work with a lot of people who they're not sure which register they're in. Typically, they are classically trained women who've been singing opera for a long time, and they're not sure if they're in chest or head because they feel vibration in their head. And they don't realize, they always think that where I feel vibration means it's head voice, and it may not be. So we cannot use vibration to determine which register you're in. Which register you're in is based on your vocal folds. And the primarily, there's also vocal tract changes, but we're not aware of that as we're doing it. So think of vocal registers as actions in your vocal folds, and that you can visualize with the right kind of camera. I can tell you which one you're in based on how they're moving against each other, which is a new idea. And I'm presenting soon, coming up for the Pan American Vocology Association meeting, a paper on my research looking into what's really going on in the vocal folds. And some of you have already seen those videos. They're exciting. So happy to get the word out there about the differences, that they're discrete registers regardless of pitch. So here's the trick. You take a note, you just really count to 5 on the sung note. So let's say I'm gonna do a note for you. I'm gonna try to fool you. I'm gonna make it chest voice, but I'm gonna make it sound like head voice. It is a typical problem. And then I'm going to count to 5 as I hold a note and see if you can tell that it's a kind of talking, because that would tell you and me for sure that I'm not in head voice, that I'm in some kind of talking sound. Ooh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's 1, 2. If I were talking up there, that would be my talkie sound. Now I'm going to do a head voice sound that'll be very similar, and then I'll count to 5 and see if you can hear that it is head voice. Ooh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's quite obvious when talking that it's different. So the talking, we could call this the speaking test. I don't know what I should call it. Should I get the counting test? Because I don't want to say speaking because it's too much like talking. So I think I'm going to name this the counting test, so you know for sure. If you're working with people who not sure, try this, and it's quite fun. It's a great game, and they can find it exciting to. Oh yeah, wow. All right, let's move it on. Singing in tune. Now I have a lot of other tricks about singing in tune that I may not have time for today, but there are a few tricks that are worth trying. Number 1, they have to support right. And I always do front muscle, back muscle, so they can thin the chord, because if they're flat, it's often because they have too thick a chord on a note. Ha, 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 too thick a chord. It can make you flat. Number 1, if you're singing flat or you have a student who's singing flat, just think backwards. You can do the thumb point back. Think backwards, don't think up. Yeah, use that thumb point back to increase vocal fold thinning. Add lower belly support in more. And the hand really helps, because you can think that your lower belly's going in, and it really isn't. That's why having the hand there, you can really kind of almost help it go in. I get the question from teachers often, should I just let the lower belly in? And the answer is really no. It should be more active, I think, than that, because it tends to not work enough. Upper belly and lower belly tend to underwork and lie to us and say they're working, and then you put your fingers there and it's not doing anything. So the hand can be a good coach. When in doubt, add a little more kind of thing. More upper belly out, lower belly in support. Sing more softly. This can just help people not be flat. Often people who are flat they only sing loudly, and they don't know how to sing softly because they don't know how to support. Remember, support is not a volume controller. It shouldn't think of it as, I support when I'm loud and then I don't support when I'm soft. That's normal, natural, intuitive, but it doesn't result in good singing in all volumes. You definitely want to support every note that you sing. I like to teach my students with pitch problems how to play the notes on the keyboard. A lot of people who are, complete beginners, for whatever reason, they haven't been exposed to music. Why shouldn't they be able to sing too? And we should have the tricks to help people who really have no idea about music, notes. They don't even know that they are not matching the pitch. They can learn to match the pitch if you make it fun enough. One thing that I found really fun is using apps on their cell phones, piano apps. Then I show them the dog house, the main house, and then I show them what the black notes are. So let me put this again. You've likely to have seen it. I've just put that in the chat box. I might just show them the doghouse first. And for those of you watching that aren't seeing what this looks like, again, happy to send it to you. Email me at lisa@popeil.com, Popeil.com, and I'm happy to send you my drawing, my professional illustration of the doghouse and the main house, to help people feel like the keyboard, which looks really scary and random, you start to see the patterns on it. So the doghouse are the two black notes, And the dog lives inside the doghouse, and that's the letter D. Now the cat wants to get into the doghouse, and the elephant wants to get into the doghouse, but he's too big. Only the dog can be in the doghouse. So we just start like that. And all they need is one finger, and they're basically just pushing the key on their app, their piano app. And then they play the C, and they could be anywhere in the world. And they play the C, and now I say, ooh, and go ahead and sing that note, ooh. And then what we're doing is building in pitch determination, not just by ear, but by finger and by visual. And they can start saying, oh, when I push that button, it makes a sound, and that's my sound. Ooh or E. I think ooh's a little better, or do. It's just a little better. It's just easier in the mouth to do ooh. E is the best vowel for really hearing sound, hearing the frequencies in one is emitting. E is the best vowel for resonance training, but for just matching pitch, make it easy in the mouth, and ooh, do is just easy. And then we go do, and they start to realize, oh, when my finger goes to the right, the note's going up, and I'm going to feel different inside related to up and down. Then I generally show them what a half step is, and I'll turn the camera around, and I'll put my hand on the bottom part of the keys on the piano, and then I'll just play the touching notes at the top part of the keys, and I'll say, these are the touching notes. White, black, white, black, white, white. They don't have to be always white and black. You can have white, white too, but they're touching at the top. And I have them go up in half steps and down in half steps and sing in half steps, sing down in half steps. And that's all they need for the first lesson. And then the next lesson, I'll show them the main house, and that's the 3 black notes. And we have them play the 3 black notes, and that's where the people live. On the left is the front door. And then on the right of the main house is the back door. And inside the house lives George and Alice. Again, they only need one finger. And I have them play and say, front door, back door, George and Alice. Front door, back door, George and Alice. A few times in a row. So I play an Alice. Good. Play a front door. All right. Play a back door. Play an elephant. And then they stop. They have to figure out how to play an elephant again, right? They have to find they're like, oh yeah, that's a different house. And they find the dog house, and then they play the elephant. And we'll play around like that. And I'll go, okay, now we're going to go to the letter names. G, give me a D. And before they know it, they know the white notes. They know the white notes within an octave. And then I might show them the next lesson, the third lesson, I'll show them the sharps and flats. And that's also in the illustration I've sent you. And it really helps people's ability to sing in tune. These are the people who don't just sing flat. They don't know where the pitch is. And sometimes they really have an ability at the keyboard, and they kind of like it, and they kind of, I'm going to get a keyboard now. And I recommend an inexpensive keyboard for them. They're like, oh, they never knew that this part, they came for singing, but that, wow, I mean, this could really open up a box of what music can be with your fingers. All right, so singing flat, softer, thinner, more support, crazy, I know, and learning to play the notes and matching the notes with your finger, your eyes, and your ears. To fix sharp singing can happen often from over support. If you over pressurize, meaning have too much support, particularly upper belly. If you stick it out too hard, it can make the pitch go up. And this is seen a lot in like flute players, wind players. If they overblow, the pitch can be too high. Singing sharp, meaning too high, is very rare, but it can happen. I've also seen people who are nervous. When they're nervous and they're doing an audition, they'll sing sharp in the audition, but not in their normal lesson. So I do recommend that they open their mouth more. So if you drop your chin more, it has a natural tendency to lower the pitch. Not sure quite why, but it does. They might need to reduce upper belly support, because upper belly support is the primary pressure controller of the whole machine. So it may be too hard. And if you have someone who does play a wind instrument and sings, particularly if they play something like the oboe, where they need to have a lot of support, they can have vocal problems because they're used to overpressurizing their sound. And the vocal cords stiffen. I have a gal, it's just a constant battle to get her to under support because she always over supports because she practices oboe hours every week. And it shows up as a problem. So do ask what kinds of instruments, if there's a weird problem that you're not used to seeing, ask what other instruments do they play that might be related. If they're sharp, sometimes the cord's too thin. If you add front muscle, that can accidentally sort of lower the pitch. So thickening the cord. Adding vocalis contraction. That's what front muscle feeling really is. It's the feeling of front muscle contraction. Okay, and relax the cheeks. Sometimes if their cheeks are too high and they're very ringy, with a lot of ick face, that can actually make the sound sharp. The vocal cords may be in tune, but the sound coming out of their face can sound too high. So I might reduce ring by reducing the cheeks, reducing de-icking, reducing the ick face, and C. Sometimes people are sharp not in the vocal folds, but in the way they're resonating their vocal folds. But that's really quite rare. Okay, you want to keep the voice box, the larynx stable. If you sing sharp, don't let it lift. That's another example of how changing the resonator, meaning shortening the vocal tract by raising the voice box, can make the sound sharp in some people. Sometimes a high larynx raises pitch either here or in the resonance. Put a lid on the note. This is an image I've used for a long time, and it seems to help people, particularly when they're going for a higher note. It's very natural when going to a higher note, a third, a fourth, a fifth, an octave, to be quite sharp. Opera singers are famous for this. They'll go for some big high note, and they're a whole step above the note. And the audience doesn't hear that. They hear excitement, but I hear they're not even on the note. They're not even close to the note. So we have to be careful when we sing high that we don't overshoot in a major way. If we overshoot a little bit, that actually sounds good. That can sound exciting and thrilling. But if it's too high, then it can sound to people who know that they're just way too sharp. Here's the lid idea. So imagine an old-fashioned garage can, like those little the metal ones that make a lot of noise, and you have a metal lid. And you're going to put a lid on the trash can. So when I tell a student to just imagine putting a lid with their hand on the high note, that seems to help them not overshoot it. They're pushing the high note down with their hand. It's one more hand gesture or arm gesture, which is getting a really good result. And I've got I probably could put a book together of hand gestures that help people right away solve a long-standing vocal problem. All right, vibrato. My notes on vibrato are on the version 2, V2 version of the handout. Vibrato is a big issue, and I'm just going to probably overwhelm you with things, but again, a lot of you are familiar with my hand gestures and my words, my ideas, which is great. But if you're new to the information, the right hand gesture can really help people have better vibratos. So what are typical vibrato problems? Number 1, no vibrato. Number 2, it's too fast. Number 3, it's not really a vibrato, it's a flutter. Number 4, it's too slow. Number 5, there's no control of it. It just comes willy-nilly. As singers, we want to be able to have some control over our speed so that we're in that pocket of what normal, pleasant, socially acceptable vibrato speed is. It's pretty broad. But if you really fast, you're going to start to lose some fans, and if you're too slow, you're going to start to lose some fans too. So we want to stay in that sweet area of not too fast, not too slow. Also, different styles have different conventions, almost rules, about how much vibrato to use, the speed, the typical speed of the vibrato. So we might accept a slower vibrato for opera than we would in, let's say, country singing. We might want a faster vibrato for anything that's French or Irish, comes from that, like bluegrass. We accept a faster vibrato for that. There are even professionals who occasionally use a flutter, which is in a vibrato category because it's an ornament, but it doesn't change the pitch. Vibratos that people like, the pitch actually moves up and down. Also, I like to explain early on, if someone has a vibrato issue, whether they know it or not, that vibrato is a mechanism. So many of us were told that it is not, that one should not make a vibrato. It should just happen. And that when everything is lined up, hooked up, when whatever that means, when you're good, then it will just make its appearance. This is what I was told over and over again in my history of training, was don't mess with it, don't futz with it, just let it be. But then I had a vibrato problem. It was too slow, and I was under the pitch, and I didn't know how to improve it so it was faster and was equidistant, so it had an even uppy and a downy. That's when I started to think I'm going to, it's wiggling. So it's not always true, but for most people, when you do vibrato, the voice box wiggles. Now, the action of vibrato is very idiosyncratic. Everyone has a slightly different one, and different body parts can move in different ways. And so there's not one way to do vibrato. As long as it's not too slow, not too fast, and that the singer can use it not too much and not too little, and can make a choice about where they're going to use it, especially in songs like jazz, where you're going to repeat a phrase 3 times. I don't want to hear straight tone and vibrato used the same each time. I want there to be a choice about it. So each time has a different feeling. But basically, if you think that the voice box wiggles up and down, even if it's not true for 100% of humans, it's true for almost all humans, and it really helps people realize that they can control it, that it's not an accident. Most people who have vibrato problems have straight tone problems. They can't do a good supported straight tone that's really even. Here's an unsupported attempt at a straight tone, very common problem. You can hear that little jitter, intermittent jitter. It doesn't sound solid. Now, if I have my chest up, my ribs wide, and most importantly, my upper belly magic spot firmed out, I can make a steady sound where the pitch doesn't fluctuate and there's no ha 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 ha. By the way, I should say here that in the flutter, the voice box does not wiggle. Try it. Put your hands on your voice box and do the little giggle sound. Or you could call it a machine gun. Or a lamb, like a sheep. Notice that you can feel the vocal cords are actually dancing, which is not normal vibration. You don't want them to just be hitting each other. And you want the voice box there to be some kind of movement, ideally, unless you're one of the really rare ones. You're going to feel movement. That's good. That would be so in vibrato, we want the pitch to move up and down. So a flutter, and if I put more air in, it's more fluttery and it's more palatable, but to me it's still not a real vibrato. And here's a prettier one. To me that's an attempt at a vibrato, but it's not, and it's not ugly, but I don't let my students do that. I showed them a real which takes a lot more work, where the pitch moves up and down. So straight tone hand, this will help people with straight tone problems. Always fix straight tone first before I do fix vibrato, if they have a vibrato problem. Not everybody does, of course. So E, and I do it on the E vowel, E, 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 and short, E, E. And maybe they can touch E and feel how the voice box isn't moving for straight tone, E, and the chords aren't squeezing. Very important in straight tone work that you don't let them go E, E, E. That's unsupported and vocal cord pressing. Not a combination you ever want. So I'm supporting E, E. The chords are touching, they're kissing, they're happy. I'm not pressing them. And then there are several different things you can do. One way is you can take your fingers, if you're a teacher or if you're just a singer, and you put it on your magic spot and hold a straight tone as you jiggle. I said poke in the handout, but really jiggle in and out the upper belly slowly. E. Just that can help some people, not everybody, but it can really help some people elicit, emanate, and hear a real vibrato. And so what we're doing is ear training. We're going, oh, that's a sound I haven't made before. And then we'll try it and we'll see if they can, hands, jiggling the upper belly, see if they can see, oh yeah, it's wiggling. Again, it's fun, it's a revelation. And I just haven't practiced that until they can do it without jiggling their upper belly. Another way to help people with vibrato is if their vibrato is too slow. Well, actually, let me go back to straight tone. So let's say you're doing straight tone. We're back on straight tone now, and then we'll do vibrato from there. So what you could do, another thing you can do is just use your hand gesture. You take your hand that's the most emotional hand, the one that's feel stuff. Like, that's my tool hand, this is my emotional hand, that's the one I'm going to use for this. And I do my straight tone hand, and then I'm going to do, if I just want a vibrato, any vibrato, I'm just going to start doing that really big. Like, it shakes my shoulders and kind of loosens me up. It's really whacking the water, the whacking the water hand gesture, but it's a little bit more shaky. And just see if that movement, the loosening, and this idea of up and down elicits a vibrato. Sometimes just doing that will, because the upper belly jiggle doesn't always work. Another thing I've had success with is with people with too much tightness under the tongue, is you take your fingers or take your thumb and just go, and simply by gently jiggling up and down on that under tongue muscle, that can in some people elicit a vibrato. Whatever works, it doesn't matter, as long as something works and is memorable, enjoyable, gets the results with no harm, I'll try it. I had one student, only one, where I actually had to move the thumb left and right, and then they made a vibrato. Nothing else worked. So again, fool around, don't be afraid to get in there or have them get in there and do it to themselves, and see if you can discover what elicits the cyclical pitch change. Now keep in mind that vibrato is not just a pitch change. That's how we want to think of it as singers. Just we want to hear that up and down, and we want to be aware of the speed. But it also, because there's so many changes going on for most people when they're doing vibrato, it also fluctuates resonance. So you could see in a spectrogram, you can see the resonance change cyclically. Also the adduction of the vocal folds, they might be closed more firmly and then closed more softly, more firmly, more softly. So that adduction, that closure force of the vocal folds is also undulating. And there's can be a slight shift in the volume as well, which is interesting. Don't worry about it. Really just worry about for now, about getting them to do a cyclical pitch change so they can do vibrato on purpose, not by accident. So these days, many young people come to me and their vibratos are too fast. I think that's just what they're hearing. A lot of people that they're hearing and streaming, I don't want to say the radio, but I don't know if that's so true anymore. But the songs, they're hearing people sing softly. Soft, sad music seems to be the music of the generation. And so you're hearing a lot more they're imitating this fast vibrato. They're not listening to they're not listening to rock singers. Or a lot of them aren't listening to musical theater belters. They're listening to these whisper pop people who are so soft and so airy and have very fast vibratos. The louder you are, the slower the vibrato tends to be. And the softer you are, the faster the vibrato tends to be. So they're just imitating this really light, airy sound that they're hearing in contemporary pop music. So to get people to slow their vibrato down, mostly young people, I'll have them do whacking the water. It's important that they start in front of their face and that you only bring your hand out to the side and then you stop. You don't want to bring the hand around you. It doesn't help. You don't want to hold the note too long. So it'd be like this. E, E. Now, oftentimes they'll do the hand really fast as though the hand is responding to the vibrato, but what I want is the vibrato to respond to the hand as though you're conducting yourself. So, so I want them to feel like their hand and their eyes, your eyes are controlling, you can see it, is slowing the vibrato down. Now, some people have a naturally fast vibrato that can't, the speed cannot be slowed. That's fine. As long as it's in the ballpark and not fluttering, it's fine. But I always try. If I think it's a little too fast, I'll see if we can get it slower. But I don't force it. Everybody's different when it comes to vibrato. And the rules of what's acceptable or not are much broader than in other sounds, I think. If somebody has too slow a vibrato, and often those will be older people who've lost belly tone, they've just, there's a little joint in the larynx called the cricothyroid joint, and if that has ossified, now the vibrato, because in most vibratos the two cartilages actually visor like this, but if that joint becomes stiff from age, where it calcifies and then ossifies, then you don't get that visoring. You see visoring a lot with the fast vibratos, and if it locks up, now the whole voice box have to move. And but even they can learn to speed up the vibrato. And for that, I start with the straight tone, and then I wiggle the fingers in front of my face. And sometimes I call it vibrato fingers. It's just the fingers. But I also call it chasing the bunny, because in my mind, there's a rabbit and I'm chasing it. I would never chase a rabbit, but somehow I think this is my little image of I'm chasing the rabbit, chasing the bunny. And that really helped me make my vibrato better instead of that the thing I used to have in college, which I knew was too slow and under the pitch. And so I just started fooling around and I can make it faster. And that was really cool too. So again, vibrato is something you want to work on. If it's a problem, be aware of it. You can also do straight tone vibrato ratios. Here's 50-50 on a note. E. Or I could do 20-80. E. Or I could do 80-20. E. So you've got different straight tone vibrato ratios. You could just start a note with vibrato. E. You can end a phrase with no vibrato at all. E. So you've got wonderful choices that are easy to control, but you have to get past the old ideas that vibrato is not to be controlled, and it's a sign that you're a good singer and you're healthy, and it'll just happen mysteriously. That didn't really work for me. So practice straight tone to vibrato exercises on one note for the best results when working with vibrato problems. Get that straight tone to be an unpressed, nice, comfortable sound, and that will open the gates to perhaps improving vibrato. Well, I think I'm on time. I'm on schedule. I wanted to leave it open for questions, but I'm just going to, for our guests who are going to be watching the recording, I just wanted to say thank you for joining us. And if you have questions, feel free to check out my website, popeil.com, or email me at lisa@popeil.com. And I'm happy to send you graphs, images, illustrations, links to things that may be of particular interest to you.
Enchanté, parlez-vous français, yeah.